Hey, welcome guys to a very special banner review. Today I'll be going over the 3 new Monster Hunter characters / dragon, which includes Hunter Berserker, Hunter Vanessa, and the Elder Dragon Fatalis. Additionally, I'll briefly cover Rathalos, the new Welfare Dragon, as well. I will be mentioning references to the actual Monster Hunter games from time to time just for those that aren't familiar with the series. It'll also show you guys how much attention Cygames put into this collab, which I think is very important that we notice, just so that we can appreciate the work that they have done. Do note that I will not be reviewing these characters with a critical rate bug in mind for obvious reasons. Anyways, enough chit chat, let's get into the review and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so Hunter Berserker is our 9th flame sword in the game. I think that's the most in any weapon element category, which would be a problem because he faces so much competition. However, Berserker plays very differently. He's got his unique playstyle, which was taken from the source material. He plays exactly like how you would with a critical draw, fast charge greatsword build in the Monster Hunter games, and let's briefly go over that. So in the actual game, when you use the crit draw greatsword build, you pretty much just run around, charge your greatsword 3 times, and then you unleash a very powerful attack. After every max charge swing, you sheath your weapon and you rinse and repeat the whole process until your foes are dead. You never bother with using the regular attacks for the most part because the true charge slash is where most of the greatsword's damage is coming from. In Dragalia Lost, Berserker's playstyle is exactly the same. The true charge slash is his 4-strike now. This unique 4-strike has increased 4-strike damage by 30%, has 3 charge levels to it with the modifiers being the following. At charge level 1, 296% damage, 2.15 times overdrive mods, 600 SP gains, and 1.2 times multiplier in break damage. Charge level 2 has 424% damage, 1.95 times overdrive mods, 960 SP gains, and 1.2 times break damage. At max charge, or level 3, has 548% damage, 1.75 times overdrive mods, 1400 SP gain, and 1.2 times break damage. So as you can see, charge level 3 deals tons of damage with excellent SP gains. When using Berserker, his optimal combo is no longer the original C2 or C3 4-strike combo because he no longer has that 4-strike animation. His optimal combo now is 3 charge 4-strike roll, or instead of rolling, you can cancel the 4-strike animation by using a skill if one is available for use. This 4-strike of his is very slow and not very mobile, so it makes it very difficult for him to bait properly. Berserker isn't going to be used in the same role as traditional sword characters. He's not a very good baiter, so I think he should be played more of a range character like Lances, where you position yourself far away and attack at max range and let somebody else bait. With that being said, he's the first flame sword character that can be easily used alongside an axe or a dagger character in high Midgard trials. Let's move on and talk about his range real quick. His 4-strike has incredible range. It hits way farther than the 4-strike indicator shows, and let me show you guys a picture. Berserker is standing right here and look how far he is from Volk. He can actually hit Volk at this range. I believe that's longer than the range on lance attacks. Like I said earlier, you use them just like how you would with a lance character. Let somebody else bait while you attack from a distance. The range is far enough to hit Volk from where the bombs are, so make sure that you take advantage of that whenever you can when you plan on using Berserker in Expert Volk. But please, do keep in mind that you cannot cancel the 4-strike animation, so make sure that you are safe whenever you use his 4-strikes. There's actually quite a few instances where you can die because of bad timing, such as dying to Beyblades and having one of those squall tornadoes spawn on top of you, so be careful. Okay, now let's finally get into skills. Skill 1 is Moonbreaker, 2630 SP. If you can recall from earlier, a 3 charge 4-strike grants 1400 SP, therefore it only takes 2 of those in order to fill up the skill 1. It takes approximately 5 seconds in order to do so, which is pretty quick. Moonbreaker has total damage mods of 886%, which is about average. It's just a little bit more than Yuden skill 1. Not the best in terms of damage, but it does come with a pretty good effect. It debuffs enemies' defense by 5% for 10 seconds, and it says this debuff will not stack. The uptime on this debuff is excellent. You can pretty much perma debuff enemies with it, considering that it only takes about 5 seconds to charge it. Unfortunately, the debuff doesn't stack with itself, nor with allied debuffs. If Howling Mim puts her debuff down while Zerker's debuff is applied, then you only get the highest debuff applied, which is 15% from Howling Mim. Kinda sucks, but at least the uptime on it is pretty good. Animation speed is decent. It's not the fastest nor is it slow, but I think it's at a good speed for such a spammable skill. Overall, I'm quite happy with Moonbreaker. It deals good damage, spammable defense debuffs are always great, especially since it has a 100% chance to proc. And my favorite part about it is the fact that it's Moonbreaker. Moonbreaker is a hunter art from Monster Hunter Generations and is by far my favorite hunter art because it has such a cool animation. And speaking of hunter arts, his skill 2 is also a greatsword hunter art, Lion's Maul. In the game, it increases the damage on the next strike. Pretty much does the same thing in Dragalia Lost. It increases the damage on the next 4th strike by 80%. 5600 SP, which means it takes 4 max charge 4 strikes to fill. This is a skill that you want to make sure to use during the break, since all of Berserker's 4th strike deals more damage while the enemy is in a break state. Now, as for his abilities, I've gone over most of Greatsword expertise earlier. What I didn't talk about was the immunity to knockbacks while charging 4 strikes. I find this effect very useful, especially in Micro Gauntlet, because Roy Claps doesn't interrupt his 4 strike charging. The con with it, and with everything revolving knockback immunity, is if you get hit by multiple attacks, you'll end up taking lots of damage because you won't be getting knockback iframes. For the Monster Hunter World players out there, let me throw out a reference for you guys. The pros and cons that come with knockback immunity is identical to the pros and cons that comes with using a Rock-Stain Mantle. Sleep Res 100% is worth talking about on Berserker. Him having Sleep Res makes it difficult for him to fit into meta pub teams in Expert Volk. The reason is because Ezilith and Lowens are pretty much staples in the meta comps. That's already 2 Sleep Res characters and obviously 3 if you include Berserker into that comp. That leaves only 1 spot for a Stun Res character, which can be either Halloween Mim or Zania. Tons of Zanias and pubs from my experience do not like tripping more than 1 bomb because they would rather sit there and DPS. That can be a problem. I personally think Halloween Mim fits better because she has nothing better to do during the bomb phase than to trip bombs, plus her critical damage co-ability is more beneficial than skill damage co-ability for both Ezilith and Zerker. The only problem is that without Zania, the team cannot take advantage of Burn Punisher, which I don't think is that big of a deal. Ezilith with Lemons Champion is as good as one running Burning Punisher, and Halloween Mim is better off with running Jewels of the Sun than Elegant Escort. Another reason why Mim works so great alongside Berserker is his 3rd ability. Zerker gets 20% increased crit rate versus defense down enemies. Ezilith, Berserker, and Halloween Mim all have defense down skills, so Berserker is pretty much getting perma 20% crit rate on all of his attacks. Overall, I do like Berserker a lot. He's very easy to use even though his unique playstyle takes a bit to get used to. For a 50 node character, his damage is actually pretty good. He may not be as good as Yuden, but not a lot of sword characters are. Yuden is the total package when it comes to sword units. His kit is just way too good. I think it's better to compare Berserker with Naveed, and I actually prefer Berserker over Naveed. I believe their damage is almost similar when we aren't talking about a super long fight. Unlike Naveed, Berserker doesn't have to ramp up, all of his damage is there from the beginning, and he gets up his skill 1 super quick. Like 5 seconds in, a 5% defense debuff is applied for the whole team to take advantage of immediately. Of course, for longer fights, Naveed is going to be better due to his max ramp skill 1. That's just my 2 cents on the 2, but yeah, I like Berserker a lot. I personally definitely recommend getting him, even though it's kind of hard to fit him into pub rooms and the late game content sometimes. And besides, who doesn't want Berserker wearing the iconic Rathalos armor from Monster Hunter? All in all, he's just an incredibly cool and fun unit to play as. Now the second unit is Vanessa, wearing the popular Kirin armor and wielding the Kirin lance. She has her own unique attacks as well, just like Berserker, but I would say she's not that different from traditional lances, at least not as different as Berserker's kit compared to traditional swords, and I'll touch more on that unique playstyle later when we get into her abilities. For now, let's take a look at her skills. Skill 1 is Corkscrew Jab, 2786 SP. This skill can be filled many different ways depending on what combo you do with Vanessa, and her optimal combo will depend on her build. If she runs a skill damage 4 strike build, then her combo should be C5 into C4 4 strike. That should be enough SP to fill skill 1. If you give her a 4 strike damage, strength, and paralyzed Punisher build, then her optimal combo is straight up just spamming 4 strikes, which by the way takes 10 4 strikes to fill skill 1. But her 4 strikes deals tons of damage, so that's actually a realistic way to play as her. Anyways, her skill 1 deals 7 hits of 129% light damage, which totals around 903%. Not bad, but not amazing. It also afflicts paralysis, which is new for lances I believe. This skill is going to give you decent damage along with paralysis. In the last few months we've been getting pretty good light characters that do not afflict paralysis, such as Chitotse, Melora, and Galaluka, so Getting more characters like Vanessa who can inflict paralysis under a different weapon class is always great. She's gonna help diversify the way you can build team comps in High Zodiark without losing the ability to take advantage of Paralyzed Punisher prints. As for the animation, it's pretty good. It's quick, but not too quick. It's at a good speed for iframing majority of attacks, and let me show you how the animation looks in Monster Hunter Generations. Skill 2 is Enraged Guard. In Monster Hunter, this is an art that increases the user's shield block, and the more damage that the user blocks, then the more attack the user will be granted. It works similar but a bit different in Dragalia. It costs a huge whopping 14,000 SP. It activates Enraged Guard for 3 seconds, and during those 3 seconds, the user is immune to knockbacks, takes 70% less damage on the first hit received, and if the user takes damage during those 3 seconds, then Vanessa will gain 30% strength for 90 seconds, and then all the initial buffs will be removed. This is a really strong skill. 30% strength for 90 seconds is huge. The problem here is that this skill 2 costs a lot, so what you want to do is run skill prep type worm prints such as Sister's Day Out or maybe even Chocolatiers. I personally prefer Sister's Day Out because of the 4-strike damage. It just allows Nessa to shred over bars like it's nothing. Something important that I need to mention is that this skill 2 does not have any iframes, which is good. That'll make it easier for you to proc it. Basically, if you see an attack coming your way, activate this skill 2, you'll get hit, but you will just take 70% reduced damage, and then you also get 30% strength for 90 seconds. Now her abilities are similar to Berserker's. Lance Expertise gives Vanessa a unique 4-strike animation. You can charge it up to 2 times and it'll do a lunge animation. It's kind of similar to the normal Lance's 4-strike, but a bit different. It's much slower but much more powerful. Here are the mods for her 4-strikes. Charge level 2 deals 370% damage, 6.2 times overdrive mod, which is a lot, 300 SP gains, and 5% defense down. Again, she's a total overdrive bar killer. With that being said, be sure to spam those 4-strikes during overdrive because she's just going to shred it in seconds. Also, in addition to all of this, when she gets hit while she's charging her 4-strike, she'll take reduced damage and then she'll also counterattack. Basically the same thing that Lances do in Monster Hunter games, but much more simplified. Reduced Defense Devastator grants 20% crit rate against reduced defense foes. Vanessa pretty much has 20% crit rate at all times, just like Berserker. It's very easy for her to apply defense down on her foes since it's attached to her 4-strike. Like I said earlier, she has 2 optimal combos that you can do depending on her build. Spamming 4-strike is one method, and this method obviously gives you like 100% defense down duration. The other method is to do C5, C4 4-strike, and that'll apply defense down right before she activates her skill 1, which is guaranteed to get 20% increased crit rate. So Vanessa is not in a competitive weapon element class compared to Berserker. I believe she's only the 5th light lance, but majority of them aren't really used. A lot of people are wondering, is she better than Halloween Elasan? My pick would be Vanessa. Elasan has more utility due to all the effects in her skill 1. However, Vanessa does deal more upfront damage, can apply paralysis, and she has insane overdrive damage, so if your team needs any of that, then Vanessa is for sure better. I tested both of them out in Macro Gauntlet with the same team comp, and Elasan did not deal as much damage as Vanessa did. I understand Vanessa is bugged during the time that I tested her, but it wasn't close at all, so I'm sure Vanessa would still outperform Elasan without the bug. Nessa won't change the meta teams in High Zodiark, but she is most definitely viable, and most important of all, she's very fun to play. Now the featured 5-star dragon on the current collab banner is Fatalis, the OG dragon from Monster Hunter. His first aura is pretty interesting. It grants 50% strength to any element. It doesn't have to be dark. After shapeshifting, the user will get afflicted with curse for the rest of the quest. Keep in mind that this curse can get resisted by 100% curse resistance. It can also get warded off by using Affliction Guard abilities and can also be cleansed. His second aura increases Shadow Tune user strength by 30%, so if you equip this to a Shadow user, then they are getting 80% strength, which is great obviously. That's incredibly high strength. So I think Fatalis is only going to be optimal on a select few characters such as Aldrich and Delphi, to name a few. Aldrich can run the new Dragon Prep Affliction Guard print instead of the Brow Dragon. Affliction Guard will ward off the curse that Fatalis brings, which will allow Aldrich to shapeshift multiple times. 80% strength aura is also nice for increasing the damage on his optimal C2 or C3 4-strike combo. As for Delphi, his poison damage is based on the damage his 4-strike deals. With that said, you know more strength increases 4-strike damage, so Fatalis being an 80% strength dragon is a no-brainer for Delphi. Everyone else that relies on skills for damage should stick with Shinobi, at least for the most part. There are some other characters out there that may deal more damage with Fatalis equipped, such as Cassandra. Now the important question is, how good is Fatalis' dragon form? Honestly, it's not as good as I was hoping it would be. I personally wanted to believe that his dragon form was going to be bonkers, but unfortunately that's not the case. Don't get me wrong, it's by no means bad, but I thought it would have just been better because it's Fatalis. His total damage output is somewhere around Merashidan's minus the bleed damage. If we include 3 stacks of Merashidan's bleed damage, then she beats Fatalis' damage by a fairly big margin. On the flip side though, you'll get more out of Fatalis during human form than you would of Merashidan for obvious reasons, because Fatalis has a stronger aura. Again, Fatalis' dragon form is not bad, but it's not anything special. Overall, Fatalis is a good pickup. He's not really a good dragon to use in content that forces you to dragon tank stuff such as High Jupiter, but there are ways to make him work in Expert and Master's High Jupiter. If your team outputs good enough damage, then you aren't forced to dragon tank Electron Burst. If you have an Aldrich on your team, then the whole team can run Fatalis with a new Affliction Guard print. You know, things like that. He's great on Aldrich, great on Delphi, and a few more other characters. Now outside of High Jupiter, he's even better because no other content requires you to dragon tank stuff, so you won't get that drawback of being indefinitely cursed. Even if you have a maxed out Shinobi and or Merashidan, Fatalis is still useful as an AI dragon because the AI never transforms. Now Rathalos is the last unit I'm going to cover. He's not on the banner obviously, he's a welfare dragon given from the event. I'm just going to summarize him up really quickly. He's a mixed HP strength dragon just like High Brunhilde, but he's much worse. His dragon form is significantly weaker and he has way lower base stats. However, given the fact that he's free and High Brunhilde takes a long time to farm for, he's not a bad freebie for new characters to use to beef up their flame characters. Plus he gets some brownie points for just being super cool because it's Rathalos, which is the most iconic monster in the Monster Hunter series. Alright, and that's pretty much it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something out of it. Monster Hunter collab, I really like it so far. Me being a fan of the actual Monster Hunter games, I am quite pleased with how this collab turned out. You can definitely see all the work that Cygames put into it. Really happy with how it turned out, and I'm excited to see what part 2 is all about. I'm also really happy about the collab unit choices. For those that do not know, I'm a Greatsword main in Monster Hunter, so I was excited to find out that Berserker's playstyle mirrored the playstyle of the Greatsword in the actual game. As for Vanessa, not sure how many of you guys know this, but she's my favorite character in Dragalia Lost. When I first started playing Dragalia, I actually re-rolled for her instead of re-rolling for a 5-star, so it was nice to see that she was the second Monster Hunter themed character. Anyways, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the banner and the collab event itself. I would assume most of you guys are quite pleased with it. I know the Mega Man collab was a huge letdown for most of you guys, so hopefully this collab makes up for it. Alright, that's gonna be it for this video. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.